So I'm in this fight to help in any way I can, to help on the policy front, to help by getting out there and talking about it, to help by telling people, go to joebiden.com, pitch in your $5, send some texts, volunteer some time, because it truly is the case. We are all in this now, and we have seen the importance of having a leader that we can count on in a crisis. It's not Donald Trump, it is Joe Biden.
If he asked you to be his running mate, would you say yes?
Yes.
I'm so happy you just gave me a concise...
I'm so happy you just gave me a concise answer on that. She's so happy. Elizabeth Warren wants that VP spot. It was very clear she wants that VP spot. And I would even go so far as to say Elizabeth Warren has earned that VP spot. Maybe more than anyone else on that stage, Elizabeth Warren has earned that spot. She was instrumental, not a bug, but a feature, in putting a knife in Sanders in this race. Over and over throughout the course of the presidential race, she aped his policies to be a little less Sanders. Whatever Sanders did, Elizabeth Warren was a little less and called herself the betweener candidate. This worked magnificently at one point until people realized she was lying about Medicare for all, at which point it became, well, what else are you lying about if you're lying about the signature policy that you pretended to be going for along with Sanders? Now, Warren, in this case, split the vote in multiple states, Super Tuesday, even going so far as to use a super PAC, something that she told her lefty supporters that she would never do in order to stay into the race, to split the vote of the person that the left had chosen. This was her legacy in that race. The person who grifted votes and support and money from the left, pretending to be something less than Sanders. And then when she flames out, it's clear she's not going to win a state. She's not even going to win her own state. She continued to stay in the race, even when her supporters, bewildered, didn't understand why she was staying in the race, because those supporters weren't looking at my channel. And as she stayed in the race and she split those votes and she continued to attack Sanders while giving the loving light to Joe Biden, and even going so far as to say if Sanders won the nomination, she would rip it from his hands. Now, her supporters were even shocked by this because, after all, in their minds, whatever delegate she gets is basically just the delegates that Sanders gets, not realizing that that wasn't the way she was playing this race. She was a political actor in 2016. There was no reason to believe she wasn't going to be a political actor in 2020. Hence, my point in saying, of anyone on that stage that has earned that spot, Elizabeth Warren has definitely done it in spades. She wants to be the VP for this guy. This is the guy who Warren is saying is ready to take on the world. One, Joe Biden.
As president, as it pertained to Dr. Ford, everyone wanted, on high-level Democrats said she should be believed, that they believed it happened. You said if someone like Dr. Ford were to come out, the essence of what she is saying has to be believed, has to be real.
No.
Why?
And no, what I said, it has to be.
Why is it real for Dr. Ford, but not for Tara Reade?
Because the facts are, look, I'm not suggesting she had.
Just so we're clear, the facts are different. There's more corroborating evidence for one Tara Reade as opposed to Ford. Joe Biden was all in on Ford. What Mika is asking him is how on earth can you be so clear-eyed that Ford should be believed? And when this woman comes forward with more corroborating evidence, the AP came out yesterday with 2 additional anonymous witnesses. How can you not believe Reade and yet you believe Ford? That's what Mika is asking. And Mika can ask this to every other Democrat that is lined up behind this liar, Joe Biden.
Had no right to come forward. And I'm not saying any woman, they should come forward. They should be heard. And then it should be investigated. It should be investigated. And if there's anything that that is consistent with what's being said, and she makes the case or the case is made, then it should be believed. But ultimately, the truth matters. The truth matters. It's period. I fought my entire life to change the whole notion of the law and the culture around sexual assault. and I fought to strengthen and protect the process for survivors. I believe it would come a
Just so we're clear, whatever we're hearing from Joe Biden, as I've made the argument before, all of these people keep saying, I believe Joe, but Joe Biden is a flagrant liar. He did not get locked up in South Africa. He did try to kill Social Security. He did get kicked out of the last campaign for pleasurizing speeches and lying about the civil rights movement and lying about his education thing. Meaning he's a proven habitual liar, even in this campaign and in his other campaigns. Somebody made a claim against him. Allegation. All of these Democrats behaved a particular way in the Ford case, including one, Elizabeth Warren, the woman who wants the VP spot.
Yesterday was an extraordinary day when a woman came forward to make heartfelt claims about something terrible that had happened to her. The man in question could stand up and behave as if he is entitled to this position and launch a political attack and simply declare that, no, it's not true. We have to acknowledge what's going on in our country is wrong and it does not represent our values. What we should be celebrating is the fact that we are willing to fight back. We are willing to raise our voices. We are willing to say we will be heard in this country.
Now, the problem here is that when same situation comes to Biden, Warren basically says Joe Biden gave basically a heartfelt answer, and I accept his answer. Yes, I want to be VP. How weird is that? How strange the contradiction. Now, the question becomes, what is Sanders doing in this process? Now, I've made the point that Elizabeth Warren doing the video with Sanders and Jayapal and Pocan, and Elizabeth Warren doing the video with AOC, is trying to mend fences. That basically is trying to give the perception that, hey, the lefties are united in this process because Warren is considered a lefty, and she does have some association with them. Now, the catch here is that I would imagine that anybody that's paying attention understands that people who are Sanders supporters are pissed off at her, meaning the very people that Joe Biden needs to get, if he chooses her as a vice president, are the people that may actually be repulsed by that choice. Now, that may be a small number of people, so fair enough, or maybe a lot of people, depending on how they view Warren in this process. Now, the catch here is, what is Sanders doing? Is Sanders working behind the scenes to get Warren in that spot? Because I have to be honest, Sanders would be the type of person that would take a beating in the way that Warren gave him a beating, just in the way that she rhetorically hit him over and over and over again, and hit his supporters over and over and over again. He would still be the person who would think to himself, okay, yeah, I took a beating, but I'm going to still get her in that spot. Not so much. Apparently, the reporting is that Sanders has not in any way been talking to Joe Biden about that vice presidential spot. I still say that the implicit vision of it, of all these guys together, is this notion that the left is organized. And if he chooses Warren, that this in some way will be dragging or bringing the left over to the vote. That is basically what Warren is trying to offer when she's offering herself as a VP pick. Whether she can do that or not, I am unclear. I would think not. Like I said, to me, she's repulsive. And I think there's a lot of lefties that feel the exact same way. Now, the question becomes, does it work? I don't know. The saddest scene that I came across, maybe second to only Sanders crying at the convention, was in one of I think it was a Politico article, where it was talking about Sanders during the course of the race. And that Sanders, towards after all the other people got out, Warren gets out the race and says this. She gives Joe Biden a loving touch, but says this about Sanders.
Tough women who've run labor organizing campaigns and really earned their jobs in their union, the hard way. And yet said for the first time, because of this onslaught of online threats, that they felt really under attack. And that wasn't the first time it happened. Working Families Party, 2 women there, women of color, who were attacked right after they endorsed me. And I think this fundamental question about what goes on online and where those lines are and how much each of us, and I want to say this for all of the candidates back when there were lots of us, we are responsible for the people who claim to be our supporters and do really threatening, ugly, dangerous things for other
And it's
candidates.
a particular problem with Sanders'
It
supporters.
is. I mean, and it just is. It's just a factual question, and it is, and that's something I think that
Have you ever talked with Senator Sanders about that?
I have.
What was that conversation like?
It was short, but yeah, we've talked about it. But I think it's a real problem.
Does he not share your view that he's responsible for the behavior of his supporters?
You know, I shouldn't speak for him. It's something he should speak for himself on. But I do think it's something that we need to reckon with in our political discourse in particular, because this is what politics is about, is to get out and put your ideas out there, and people choose sides, people vote, people say, I'm holding a sign for her, I'm holding a sign for him. That is part of what we do. But what underlies that is a fundamental human decency and respect for each other. An understanding that nobody tries to put somebody's family at risk or somebody personally at risk because they disagree with you on the politics of it, because they see the policy different, because they don't support your candidate and they support some other candidate. No. And if we follow that same kind of politics of division that Donald Trump follows, that notion of he draws strength from tearing people apart, from
Just so we're clear what's taking place here, she's making the argument that Sanders supporters are effectively similar to Trump supporters in this notion of division of politics and everything else. Missing the point that Sanders' entire message was us, not him or whatever, where the entire point of it was to bring people together. Sanders supporters were not uniquely aggressive any more than any other supporters. And if you want to look at aggressive, look at what they're doing to Reade now, meaning people who are backing her, Joe Biden, and some of these other Democrats that are smearing Reade's name through the mud. Look, I guess my point here is, how are you going to get people that you've vilified and attacked for all this time? So it's this notion that she's supposed to pull over all of these supporters when she spent a large amount of her time bashing those exact same supporters and considering those supporters Trump supporters. The most bewildering part and saddest part that I saw Sanders was in the article after all of these people get out the race. And Sanders thinks to himself, all right, the moderates have coalesced. Warren is certainly going to back me. Warren gets out the race and does that. He sits there bewildered, unclear, thinking to himself, maybe she's not as progressive as I thought. Now, I saw that, I was like, oh God, that's so cosmically naive. He thought she was on his side. The entire time that she was attacking him, the entire time she was aping his policies and cutting to his numbers, he still thought she is basically on my side, never realizing that she was a political actor, not an ideological one. He was confused and bewildered. So the fact that he is, or the point that he is not necessarily pushing for her, is not necessarily shocking. The thing is, from a credibility standpoint, he also should not push for her. If you're working in a political campaign and somebody in that campaign was doing everything they can to undercut and put a knife in you when you believe that they were working on your side, how do you not consider that on some level of betrayal? And what does it mean to turn around and support the person that betrayed you? Does that not rationally incentivize more betrayal, in the sense that you can be walked over and you can be taken advantage of and you will still come around and assist the person that was willing to do that? That, I would imagine, is just rational behavior to ensure that the person doesn't necessarily do that. Again, it's a consequence for bad behavior. If you are not willing to do that, you will rationally incentivize that behavior to take place. That's whether your name is Bernie Sanders, that's whether you're working on the left and you're continuing to support a party that doesn't back your interests. That's just life in general, especially in a game space when the goal set is not to give you anything, but to only take. Just my advice. Sanders not backing Warren, or not urging Biden to pick Warren, good. Very, very good. 3 people familiar with the Sanders conversations with Biden, whom the Vermont lawmaker has endorsed, told the Washington Post that Sanders has declined to back some liberal efforts to convince the former vice president to select Warren as his number 2. A top spokesman for Sanders' campaign told The Hill that the senator and his team are not advising the Biden campaign's vice president selection process in any way, shape, or form. The senator is focused on building a policy task force, the right policy platform, and put forward a new vision for America. Basically, Sanders is spending his time in his PJs, wasting time. Like, share, subscribe.